Alright, in this video I will be talking about Chapter 5 Content Mastery video. So first I will show you my notes that I'll be reading off of. These are my notes. And then I will also be reading off of my computer the questions that I'm supposed to be answering. Alright, so the first question is, discuss the concept of leadership and how it is the same/different from the concept of management. So the concept of leadership is the process of influencing the opinions, attitudes, and behaviors to others to reach the achievement of a goal. And the concept of management is also quite similar to that because it also helps guide and motivate their employees to also reach a goal or common objective. Same thing. They both are very similar because they help their employees get this motivation to accomplish a certain objective or goal that needs to be happening in the organization and to achieve it. The difference between those two is management is more focused on the day-to-day objectives and what is going on in the organization that is happening on that specific day, while leadership focuses more on the broad aspect of everything. Also, the difference is management focuses more on the goals. It still focuses on their employees, but it is more evolved around focusing on the goal to get that specific objective or goal done. And leadership is more focused on their people, the behaviors and their attitudes and stuff like that to help achieve that goal. So yeah, that's mainly the difference of those two. And then next is discuss the variety of leadership styles and approaches to leadership we discussed in class. So I do know that the certain leadership styles we talked about was servant leadership, authentic leadership, and contingency style leadership. You also discussed about how democratic leadership was the best leadership out of them all. And so servant leadership is where the leader puts the needs of their employees, the customers, everything else before themselves. And they also, the definition is the notion that the needs of followers are looked after so that they can be the best they can be. So servant leadership focuses more on everything else besides themselves. They put everything else before their own person, and that is what servant leadership is. And then authentic leadership is, the definition is authenticity requires leaders to own their experience and action in accordance with their true selves. So mostly this is determined around being able to help push their employees to be their own person and to complete those goals on their own and have their own experience and stuff like that. And the 5 dimensions in the authentic leadership that was pursued by Bill George was pursuing purposes with passion, practicing solid values, leading with heart, establishing enduring relationships, and demonstrating self-discipline. And so this is just a broad aspect of having to have the employees learn to rely on themselves rather than the leader or other employees. It just helps guide the organization to focus on being more independent and more responsible with what they're doing. And then next is contingency style leadership. And this is where not one leadership style. One second. Okay, so the contingency style leadership is more focused on factors that include the supervisor, the organization, the type of work, the skill level, and motivation of employees and time pressures. So in the contingency style leadership is where it relies on multiple different factors of the organization, and it also has the effective leader. It provides direction, instruction, guidance, support, and encouragement, feedback and positive recognition, and enthusiastic help when necessary. So with contingency style leadership, it's also similar to authentic leadership because they both are focused on having to guide their employees to focus on themselves. So I also remember you discussed that in class, each leadership style is very similar to each other, just other people decided to switch up the rules a little bit or the concepts of the style to give it a new name. So I do remember you saying that. And then how does any one of these approaches impact the type of leader we are or the type of leader we perceive to be? So these approaches impact the type of leader we are because we focus mainly around our employees and having to train them to be a better person and have good behavior, good work ethic, and just to be a good worker in the environment that we have, and to be very, very important in the organization. And this shows that the type of leader we want to be throughout the organization, because we are putting the needs of our employees, not at first, but unless you're in servant leadership, then you do put it at first, but it puts the needs of our employees as one of the priorities that we have. And also it helps show us that we can have our employees rely on themselves and be responsible. And yeah, mainly it just shows that a leader can be, it just shows that us as a type of leader can be very, I don't know, I'm blanking, but it just shows that we can be a good leader to others. And so next is explain how delegation can be used by a leader / manager to motivate employees. Okay, so first I'm going to read the definition of delegation. And that is the process of entrusting duties and related authority to subordinates. And it can be used by a leader / manager to motivate employees because it shows that we can trust the employees. It builds their work ethic and their skill by giving these certain duties to our employees. It motivates our employees because it makes them build trust with us as a leader or a manager to themselves, and it gives them the motivation that they are needed in the organization and that they are important because the leader can rely on them to do their job or specific tasks that we give them. And it shows that they can be responsible. And it just improves how the employee works in the organization overall. And some of the things that can help the process of delegation is it can grant authority. And also there are limitations in the process or in the delegation world because not all employees should be doing the leadership or the manager's work, because if you just give that work out, the work that you should be doing, it kind of makes the organization realize, like, why do we have a manager? Why do we have a leader? Things like that. And it just makes the employees feel like they are needed overall and they're important to the organization. So that is everything I have to talk about in this video.